Does your company have a good wellness program? See how it stacks up against the healthiest employers of Indiana and across the country. Visit us online at healthiestemployers.com to join the community and start your application today.
Indiana Pacers select Reggie Miller of UCLA.
He has been a major player with the Indiana Pacers organization since well before that night Reggie Miller became the face of the franchise.
You are entrepreneurs. You're coming up with great ideas that are going to help sports become better, whether it's for the team in terms of analytics, whether it's for the fan experience, or whether it's for other things that we're not even thinking about today. We think you're going to do great work. So welcome to Indy. We're glad you're part of our TechStars incubator.
And more than 30 years later, Rick Fuson is still making a major impact on the Indiana sports scene through his work nurturing the next generation of sports tech entrepreneurs. Join us for a conversation with Indiana Pacers President and Chief Operating Officer, born and bred Hoosier, Rick Fuson, on this edition of the Business and Beyond podcast. Hello and welcome to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. I'm Gary Dick. Rick Fuson has sports pulsing through his veins, literally. His dad, Wayne, ran the Indianapolis News sports department for 3 decades. He played football for 2 years at IU and has been a key player in orchestrating essentially every major sporting event Indianapolis has hosted. The Pan Am Games, NCAA Final Fours, the Super Bowl, just to name a few. His boss, Indiana Pacers owner Herb Simon, describes him as a brilliant manager. And I'm pleased to be joined by Indianapolis Arlington High School alum and longtime Indiana Pacers executive, Rick Fuson. Rick, always great to be with you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's always a great opportunity for me to speak to you, buddy. I appreciate what you do for our community.
To say you're a veteran with the Indiana Pacers and so much of what's going on with that organization, Pacers Sports and Entertainment, would be an understatement. Did you start with the Pacers? Was it in 84?
I started in 84, actually June 18th. I'll remember. I'll never forget that day. I was hired by a guy named Bob Salyers, who was the president at that time. And after a year after the Simons bought the team and took over, and I've had a great career ever since.
Yeah. A lot has certainly happened at that time. A lot has happened over the course of the past 15 months, certainly for everyone in every walk of life. What has life been like at Pacers Sports and Entertainment during the pandemic, all the challenges that brought with it? Obviously, you're running professional sports franchises, but Bankers Life Fieldhouse, major entertainment venue, a major gathering event, probably the state's most high-profile gathering event as well. What's the last year and a half been like?
Well, it's been interesting on a number of fronts. Certainly, the pandemic, we were right in the middle of, started the Big Ten men and got shut down, obviously, when the NBA shut down. And obviously, it went on from there. The building was quiet. We had no events. We, at the same time, however, were starting to do the renovation, first phase of the renovation. So it wasn't like we were going to sit back and not do anything. So we got through that the first year. And then, also this another part of it was certainly the murder of George Floyd and the ensuing situations that came there, and our commitment to diversity and trying to rid our community of bias and racial injustice. And then the other side of it, I've been lucky to be the chairperson of the sports corporation, and so we had a number of things going on there, and we were able to do the Big Ten football without fans, and then we're tapped to be part of the great event that we did in terms of the NCAA March Madness. So it's been busy. Our company's been busy. We had 33 town halls during that time. We started an action committee, which is a year old now. So we've been very, very, very busy, although it was a scary time, no question about that.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of your efforts over the course of the past year. But first, before we get away from it, the NCAA Final Four, to me, a lot's been said about it. I don't think enough has been said at what an amazing feat that was for Indianapolis to pull off the entirety of March Madness. That was amazing.
Yeah, when I've been a member of the Sports Corporation since 1984, and when I said I'd take on the chairmanship for a couple, 3 years. I never thought we'd be in that. I know we'd have a Final Four. We're going to have 3 games, but we didn't know we were going to have 67 games with 68 teams, one who had to go home, et cetera. But I call it as important event as we've ever had, especially in light of the time frame that we had, 77 days, I think it is. And from the time that Joanne Scott and the folks at the NCAA called and said, hey, we're coming there. We're going to do it. It was an amazing feat to put together the Sports Corp and visit Indy and the mayor and the governor and, everybody who made a part of that downtown Indy. It was unbelievable how everybody came together. And we did it. And I think there were some critics that maybe said we couldn't do it. But as we've always done, we did it.
You mentioned the death of George Floyd in Minnesota, the social unrest that played out in Indianapolis and around the country. Pacers Sports and Entertainment, Pacers Fever, the entire organization. You really made an effort to be out front on that issue and those issues related to that. Talk about that, why you did it, and what you did, because the organization really has embarked on a number of initiatives.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I grew up in this town. And I'm a 68-year-old person and came up through the 60s and the 70s. And I think this was an opportunity for me personally and for us as a group to really make sure our second chance. We had an opportunity before and maybe we got a little bit lazy on it. This was a second chance to come forward. Our group, we have a platform and we think it's important that as we are community partners, not only to be generous, but to have intentional generosity and in intentional geography areas. So, the Simon family has given a lot of money over the years, but we gave last year over to 203 organizations representing 105,000 lives. It's groups like ours, like the Colts. We went together with the Colts early on, to give to community centers, et cetera. So, it was important for us to do it. We have players both on the men's side and the women's side who have their own platforms. Malcolm came out and did a number of different things and was part of it on an international basis, really, talking about, hey, we have to maintain our outrage about what's going on. And so we did a number of things. We set this action committee, 30 members of our staff at all different levels, including Steve Simon and Rachel Simon, who get together on a regular basis to help us make sure we see what we should do. Out of that, we're going to hire a diversity, equity, and inclusion vice president. We hired a minority purchasing group that is going to make sure that we're doing the right things in terms of spreading our wealth to try to do these things. DEI training, diversity training for all employees. We've set a goal of having 100% of our employees volunteer, and we're going to do that. In the last 10 folks that we've hired at the vice president level or above have been women or folks of color. So we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're spending every day. We're not forgetting it. We're not going to put it on a back burner.
Yeah, and this is getting some national recognition too, right? National Sports Journal came out or Sports Business Journal, I should say, came out recognizing your efforts in the national significance of them.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful for those kind of things. But because of Herb Simon and Steve Simon and the Simon family, we're put in a position where they allow us to do those things. And, they are intentional about making sure that we are paying attention to what's going on in our community. And I think that's the case. We got to keep it on the front burner. We can't let the pendulum go so far that it just doesn't ever stick. And we've got to, hopefully what we're doing will hopefully make some people pay attention and wake up. Our great leader of our Fever, Allison Barber, started with Anthem and Amaze Institute and Athletes to Advocate, teaching these young women and others to make what they can do more than just play sports. And I think that's very helpful. The NBA, each one of the NBA owners pledged for 10 years, $1 million, $300 million to have a NBA foundation. And one of the first grantees was the Center for Leadership Development here in town because of Danny Lopez's work and Corey Wilson's work and Mel Rains's work. And then, we're a big part of the Kennedy King Memorial. We just announced a program where we're going to hopefully help some people be part of a class to learn more about what that night was about and what happened in those times. And we're part of the CICF Equity Fund. We're part of the Racial Equity Pledge. Our folks just got together and packed 27,000 meals for the hunger awareness with ADT. We want more partnerships. We want to be part of a community with everybody else participating.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned this is personal to you because you grew up in Indianapolis. You're also the stepfather of two mixed race children. So this is on a number of fronts, right? A personal thing for you.
Yeah, it's really amazing. The situations that bring you together. I had a situation early on in last May where we had a neighbor who was not very kind about what the Pacers were doing, and I kind of felt that I kind of confronted him and said, "Hey, well, I have a young black man who lives in my house. Would you rather us move from the neighborhood?" And that's not what Indianapolis I grew up with. I went to Arlington High School, went to IPS 71, went to 106. I have Indianapolis Public Schools in my blood, and we don't act like that. And so I don't want these young people who live in my house to live the life that some of the other folks have had to do with racial injustice.
Yeah. You have had a front row seat really to watch Indianapolis grow and evolve over the years growing up. As you mentioned, product of IPS schools, went to Indiana University. What was growing up in Indy like for you?
Oh, I loved Indianapolis. My father, was a sports writer, and we got to go to a lot of sporting events. Arlington High School was a great place. I loved going to IPS schools. All my siblings went to Arlington High School and to city public schools, and it was a great place. And it wasn't controversial. We had friends of all kinds, and we went to school. We played sports, and we came home, and we went to Steak and Shake, and we went to McDonald's, and we hung out, and you weren't fearful at that time. And Indianapolis, while they might have called it Indy No Place, it was a great place for us growing up.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your dad, Wayne, a legendary sports writer, sports editor for the Indianapolis News for a long time. What was it like having a high-profile dad like that? You said you went to a lot of sporting events. What was it like to have him in the newspaper and out there a lot?
Well, let me tell you, my given name is Wayne, but I go by Rick. That ought to tell you something, because every time there was a bad story, no, I'm Rick Fuson. I'm not Wayne Fuson. So no, it was great. He was a guy who reported the news. He wasn't a columnist really. He had a story called Time Out, and he reported the news. Once in a while, he'd write about his favorite pizza or his favorite time of year or Christmas or whatever the case may be. But I enjoyed it, and I think I learned a lot from my dad in terms about telling the facts, not embellishing the facts, and just telling the way things are. So we miss him terribly, and he's been gone a long time, 25 years. I'll never forget one of the things we found. He went to the Colts game, and we have his final notes from his career before the week he passed. But even at 68, it's amazing the kind of foundation that you've had in our town. And my dad was one of the guys who he called people movers and shakers. And there's still people around here today who hate to be called movers and shakers, but that's exactly what they are, movers and shakers.
I love it. Well, you love sports, and you played sports, right? You played some football at IU. Tell me about your sports career.
Yeah, well, I did a lot of different sports from a little kid. We played baseball at Forest Manor. We played some softball. We played some volleyball. We ran track. Never forget running track in a number of different places. When I was in 8th grade, I got to run with seniors in high school out at the now Coon Stadium, and it was great. I was blessed with some quickness, and so. But it was a great opportunity. But I played a little basketball, but football was really my love. Played at Arlington High School for a guy named Bill Kuntz, Kuntz Stadium, a great guy in the Catholic organization. And then went on to IU as a walk-on. I could have gone to some smaller schools, but I wanted to prove I could play in the Big Ten. Played for John Pont. Played a couple years before Lee Corso came in, and that my career ended at that point. But it was just a great opportunity. IU was, I played on an 0-11 team, I think. So we learned a lot about sports back when IU wasn't very good. They came off of the going to the Rose Bowl, and then we got kind of crummy, and then got better again, certainly like we are now with Coach Allen. But it was a great opportunity to go to Indiana University. I think as fine a university as any place in the world.
Yeah. You mentioned playing a lot of different sports, track, baseball, football, and on and on. Do you think in today's specialized world where kids are kind of pigeonholed to do one sport, do you think kids are in some respects losing out, not being exposed to a whole variety of sports?
Yeah, I personally believe that a lot because they are so focused early. Parents think that their kids are going to play in the NBA or their kid's going to play baseball in the Major League Baseball or they're going to play in the NFL. So they get every summer they're going from here to there. I have two grandkids and both they're both good players, but they go all over the place. I mean, the parents never have a weekend, and they should, and the kids never have a weekend because they're always playing. I found that it was great. You got different people playing different sports, and it was good camaraderie. And you met all kind of different people, and it's about relationships for sure. And I still have friends today who, I played football with in high school, and played football with at college. But yet we played. I still see the guys that we played softball with. So I think I think we're too specialized personally.
Yep. Yep. Okay, Rick, we're now at the point in the podcast each week where we do what we call the 2-minute drill. Ask you a few questions here real quick. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite way to relax?
At my garden in Brown County.
Ooh, very good. First job you can remember, not out of college, but first job you can remember.
I worked at Loeffner's cafeteria rolling up silverware.
Very good. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Probably Hoosiers, believe it or not.
How about favorite snack?
Cheetos.
Pet peeve. What really gets on your nerves? Anything in particular?
People that are lazy and don't work hard.
Okay. Most important, I'm sure you've had most successful people have had a number of mentors over their careers, but is there one non-family person who you would consider maybe your most influential mentor?
Larry Conrad, former Secretary of State, ran for governor, really the backroom author of the 25th Amendment to the Constitution.
Yep. Class basketball or single class?
Well, life would say single class, but I say this. I see the same agony of defeat for all four classes, and I see great happiness for winners. So we've shared it more, but still single class.
Yeah, good. Okay, last one. If you could have dinner with three people, either living or deceased, who would those three people be at the dinner table?
Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan, and Barack Obama.
Okay, that is a good group. Interesting group, too. You passed with flying colors, Rick. So great job on the 2-minute drill. And when we return, Indianapolis will be put to the test to defend its title as a sports capital with a string of really high-profile events, including the College Football National Championship game. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, big changes coming to Bankers Life Fieldhouse. We'll dive a little bit more into that and much more when the Business and Beyond podcast continues.
The Healthiest Employers Award program is now open to companies of all sizes in the state of Indiana. We have created a community of wellness leaders from across the country dedicated to cultivating a more proactive approach to employee health and well-being. To nominate your organization, visit us online at healthiestemployers.com. Healthiest Employers, the nation's leading corporate well-being award.
Welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast, presented by PNC. My guest this week is Pacers Sports and Entertainment President and Chief Operating Officer Rick Fuson. Rick, you have a lot of things on your plate, a lot of things keeping you busy these days. And one of them, as you mentioned in the first part of the podcast, one of them, the massive improvements to Bankers Life Fieldhouse. A lot was talked about that pre-pandemic, but refresh our memory because this is going to create, in some respects, a whole new arena.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Herb made a deal with the CIB to keep the Pacers here for 25 years, and the great relationship we have with Melina Kennedy and Andy Mallon and all the folks on the Capital Improvements Board. And so the Pacers will be here for a long time, and as part of that deal, we're going to refresh the field house. I've said for years it's got good bones, always had good bones, but we're able to do some things to it now to make it the field house of the future. actually the pandemic kind of helped us in terms of getting some things done that we probably couldn't have gotten done on that first phase, because obviously we didn't have games until December. So we were quiet for a long time, and there was a lot of work being done. But we got through first phase. It was basically in the lower bowl. As Mel Raines will say, hey, if you look at the field house today, you don't see anything different on the outside. But we did a lot of work down to the bottom of the field house, and all new seats in the lower section. We have 3 new clubs. We have all new suites on the lower level. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. And now this summer we're into phase 2. We closed right after the last fever game we had, and the Pacers were out of the playoffs. If you drive down Pennsylvania Street, or you drive Delaware, you'll see we got big towers out there in terms of the things that are being taken out. We're redoing the club level. We're redoing the entry pavilion. Ultimately, the entry pavilion will have glass all on the north side, which we'll look at on the new plaza. If you haven't been by there used to be a garage on Maryland Street that kind of blocked the front area of the field house. It's gone. And the field house, which will be done by about November of 22, the plaza will be a beautiful place where we can have great basketball games or other events in the summertime. We'll have skating, ice skating. We'll reintroduce that back to downtown in the wintertime. And when you come into the entry pavilion, you'll see it different. You'll be able to look into the bowl, look into where we're playing, and we're going to have some bars and some different things. So when you come back for the Pacer season in October, it'll be a new arena, and then it'll continue to get newer and newer and newer and newer and newer. We can finally have it finished in the fall of 22.
Yeah, you mentioned that plaza, which I think is one of the really interesting aspects of the renovation work. Do you think that has the real potential to kind of re-energize, if you will, that near southeast side of downtown?
Yeah, I think we have got a lot of great pieces. Certainly, Georgia Street's a great piece. If you think about coming from Lucas Oil Stadium to the convention center, across Georgia Street now, and then when you pop out around the Hyatt, you're going to pop and you're going to see the new glass on the entry pavilion. And you're going to see this beautiful plaza just to your left, and you'll be able to see through almost to the jail site, which one of these days is going to be something different as they go to the near east side, and then to Luger Plaza. And so I think we have a great area of a whole, the cultural trail, it joins in there. I think we have a whole rebirth of downtown. It's hard for me to say a rebirth of downtown because I don't ever think we really died, but some people say we did. But we're coming back. There's no doubt about it. And I think as some of these things come together, I think gathering spaces, I think more people will come as we have more people living downtown. As people say, hey, I want to come downtown. I come to a Pacer game, come to a concert, etc. Get out of some of the suburbs and come on downtown. I think it's going to be a great gathering place, and I think it's going to really enhance our downtown for a new generation.
Yeah. Speaking of gatherings, there are going to be a lot of big gatherings, big time sporting events, which Indianapolis has really made its mark in hosting, including huge string, unprecedented, really. The College Football National Championship early next year, the NBA All-Star Game down the road in 2024. It had to be, or was canceled, I guess you could say, this year. Talk about this string of events and Indianapolis's ability to pull them off.
Well, I think we have some great volunteers who are part of Sports Corp, and we certainly have a great group in Visit Indy run by Michael Browning and Leonard Hoops and others who participate in this. The state is helping us. The city has continued to help us, and we're competitive. There's no doubt about the fact. I mean, think about it. It was supposed to be the All-Star Game, then the NCAA Final Four, then the National College Football Championship with some other things in between. Well, All-Star Game because of the pandemic is going to 2024, but there's going to be some other things in 2024. I think we're one of the leading candidates to have the Olympic trials for swimming in 2024. And it would be 100 years since we've had that event in Indianapolis where they had it at Broad Ripple Park in 1924. So you think about things like that. The football championship is going to be huge. Obviously, it'll be back and the people will be here. But before that, we've got Big Ten football, and then after that, we've got the Big Ten basketball for men and women again. There are so many things that are coming on. It's going to be tremendous. future going forward. And who'd ever think that in the middle of all this we were going to have this March Madness thing, which we probably got more press out of it as anything did in sports in the world. So Sports Corp's done a great job. We have Visit Indy's done a great job. We have a lot of support for events here. The convention business is coming back. That helps us. Pacers and the Colts and all the sports we have, the Indians and the 11 and all of them, the Fuel, the Fever. It all makes a difference for Indianapolis. And as people come back downtown, as Lilly employees come back downtown, and Anthem comes back downtown, and hopefully Salesforce and some of these others, One America. I think you're going to see Indianapolis back to where it was, and even better going forward.
Yeah, an important time to be sure as workers come back downtown and others and come back downtown for big events. Rick, as you look at the Pacers organization, Pacers Sports and Entertainment, in particular, the Pacers, what's next? A lot going on. You mentioned obviously the renovation and the new look at the field house and what that's going to bring. But in terms of the organization, the franchise, what do you see as what's next?
Yeah, well, I've been here a long time. I'm in my 38th season, going into my 38th season. I've seen a lot of ups and downs. Obviously, we've been to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think 8 times. We had a streak of 32 years with home winning records. Had a little blip in that this year. I always have positive feelings about our Pacers. I think Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan and Kelly Crosskoff and Ted Wu, who lead that group, and certainly with Herb, I think everybody's committed to be a winner, and I think we've got some great players who will come together, I hope, and we're going to be back up at the top before long. I'm the eternal optimist when it comes to that. It's just like our Fever are having some struggles, but you know what? They won a championship, and Tamika Catchings is one of the greatest of all time, and she'll bring that back. Our 2K team is winning now. That's the 2K business.
Yeah. Pacers Gaming, right? Yeah.
Pacers Gaming, and then we'll have the G League again, and so we look forward to that as well. So I think Pacers Sports Entertainment's got a lot of good things on the horizon, and by far we have as fine an owner in terms of Herb Simon and Steve Simon as anybody, is certainly in sports. In our opinion, we love our friend Jim Irsay, but I work for Herbie, so he's done everything he said he would, and he's been a great community partner and kept these things here, and never wavered about keeping the Pacers and all these teams in Indianapolis.
Do you think that gets overlooked sometimes and is taken for granted? What the Simon family has given to Indianapolis, not just the Pacers, but so many other important things.
If I separated myself from working for Herb, I would say absolutely. They are the Simon family are not out front all the time. They've given millions and millions and millions of dollars, and I think they do get overlooked at sometimes, or maybe taken advantage of, because everybody says, well, you're a quote unquote billionaire and you should be given money. Well, they don't do it because they should. They do it because their heart says it's the right thing to do. So. But Herb would say, hey, Indianapolis has done more for me and my family than I've ever done for them. So that's the kind of people that they are.
Final question for you, Rick. What's next for Rick Fuson? What as you look out on the horizon, what are you looking at?
Well, I've had a great career. I'll be here through the All-Star game in 2024, and then we'll take a look from there. I got a lot of gardening to do in Brown County, and I got some chickens I need to pay attention to. So life is different sometimes than the rat race of sports or when we get busy. But I enjoy very much, and I'll enjoy a time when I can be with my friends in Brown County and my wife and my kids and say hello to nature, because I love it dearly.
Well, look me up. Maybe we can get a gardening show lined up for you.
I'd like to do that. We could, if we could, for sure. We'd do that. We'll do a little podcast on that too. A lot of things happen in gardening. I'll tell you, a lot of things.
Okay. We'll keep tabs on that. Rick Fuson, always a delight to be with you. You continue to make your mark in the sports world, but also importantly on Indianapolis, your hometown, and you've certainly given back and continue to give back in many ways. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I've been very honored. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast. It's presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. And you can check out all of our episodes and get Indiana business news 24/7 at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. We'll see you next time.